Welcome back, guys. Last time we made some paper airplanes and flew them. Today we're going to do some origami boats. So, yeah, what you're going to need is some regular old computer paper. If you have origami paper, that'd be awesome. Origami paper comes in squares and it's thinner than this stuff, so it's easier to fold, but this will work just fine for what we're going to be doing. So anyway, we're going to start with a piece of paper that looks just like this. If you have origami paper, you can feel free to use origami paper. If you don't have origami paper, I'm going to show you how to make this into a square right now. What I'm going to do is take the bottom corner, fold it up to the top, and before I actually crease anything, there's two things I'm looking for. So the first thing is I want that corner lined up perfectly here. And the second thing, again, I haven't folded it yet, it's just bent, is I want this over here to look like a point. Now that's not quite a point right now, so I need to slide the whole thing over. That's not quite a point right now, so I need to slide it back this way until it looks just about like a perfect point. And then before I actually crease it, I will double check. Does that look like a point? Yes. Is that lined up straight? Yes. Okay. Once you've got it where you need it, the best way to crease it, I'm going to hold down here and I'm going to sweep to the middle. Flatten out just that middle part first. Once I've got the middle flat, I can go ahead and flatten out all the way to the bottom and all the way up to the top. There you go. Now, just like last time, anytime we're doing folded paper art, you want to score your fold. So creasing it is, when you actually press it down. Scoring it means you're going to take that crease and get it really, really flat. You can do this with your fingernail if you want. I've showed some of y'all how you can kind of make a pinch like that and push your fingernail down against it. That works, but if you have something like that, flat and round and solid, you can also do it this way. So today I'm going to be using a pencil, just pressing it flat down against the table and scoring it like this. Perfect. Okay. So we've got that first fold. And again, we're not even making anything yet. All we're doing now is trying to get our paper to be a square. Okay. Next, we've got this leftover rectangle. So I can imagine if I cut right there, I would have pretty much a perfect square if I cut right there. So obviously you could take a pair of scissors and cut right there. I'm going to show you another way you can do it too. So what I'm going to do is take this little extra leftover piece and fold it down. And I turned over my paper backwards so I could see exactly where I needed to fold it. There we go. I'm checking my corner there. This lined up perfectly. Okay. And just a little trick you can do if you're ever in a situation where you need to tear a piece of paper, cut a piece of paper, you don't have scissors. You can tear it if you score it enough. So I'm going to score this thing back and forth about 6 times. So there's one. When I say back and forth, I mean each time I'm going to fold it the opposite way. Now I'll flip it over. Fold it this way. Score it again. 2. I'm going to repeat this process, like I said, like 5 or 6 times to make sure it's really, really scored. 3. Flip. 4. Flip. 5. Flip. 6. And in fact, if I didn't want to tear this piece, I don't recommend scoring it this many times. I've actually had kids in class score it so hard, and then they're trying to fold it, and it just kind of naturally rips. So yeah, if you're not trying to actually break it apart on that line, you probably don't want to score it that much. So I've scored it back and forth 6 times. What I'm going to do is really, really carefully up here at the top, I'm going to pinch it real close there and just kind of rip it just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with it. So a little rip there. I'm going to come over to this side and rip it. Again, holding real close to the fold. Okay. Now next, again, it's always important when you're doing this to hold really close to the fold. So you can see I'm pressing flat and just tearing. And as long as you've scored it enough, the paper should know just where to rip. Cool. So guess what? Without even using a pair of scissors, I managed to get myself a perfect square of paper. Of course, I could have just cut that too. If you've got scissors handy, go for it, but hey, just want to show you a way to do that. So anyway, this first origami boat I'm going to show you is literally the simplest origami like I've ever seen in my life. I think it's like 2 folds. So if you're starting with a square, your first fold is just going to be to fold one corner to the other. And actually, we've already done that. I'll go ahead and score that fold. Okay, so we have now what looks like a right triangle. Again, if you don't know what a right triangle is, it's something you're going to learn about in math. May as well learn about it right now. So a right angle is what we call a 90-degree angle. What that means is it's just a corner. That's the easy way of saying it. So most pieces of paper, most rectangles, squares, all that type of stuff, well, all rectangles and squares actually are going to have right angles in the corner, right? So there you go. So we have a right angle, a corner right here. Up here and down here is actually a 45-degree angle, what we call an acute angle. I'm getting way into the math. The bottom line is you need the corner down here. What we're going to do next, we've already done one fold. Like I said, this thing's basically 2 folds, is I'm just going to fold this up. There's the sail, there's the boat. It's that easy. You guys see how I'm doing it? Now what I like to do is I like to tilt it a little bit so the front of the boat kind of sticks up taller. Gives it that old like classic wooden ship look with the point on the front. So exactly where you fold, it is totally up to you. You can do it like that, you can do it like that. How big do you want the sail? How big do you want the boat? With this one, all of those choices are up to you. I'm going to put mine about like that. And I'll go ahead and fold it down. And I'll go ahead and crease it. Cool. But of course, that's not really 3-dimensional. That's just flat right now. So let's make it 3D. So what I'm going to do is take this whole thing, flip it over, and I'm just going to flip that second fold I made around the other way. So I'll flip it back this way. And again, when you're doing the same fold just the opposite way, the paper kind of knows where to go. So I'll crease that backwards. You go ahead and score that. All right, so at this point, I've scored this both ways. I've scored it that way. And I've scored it this way. Same fold, just bent it 2 different ways. Cool. All right, so what I'm going to do now is just open up my paper. And you'll see one big long diagonal fold. And then 2 kind of angular folds like that. So all I need to do to make this one is on this big long diagonal fold, I'm going to find the shorter part of it. So here's the short part, here's the long part of the diagonal fold. With the short part, I'm going to bend the paper toward me. It's pointed right at me. Now while I'm doing this, I'm going to bend the rest of that paper away from me. Kind of folds up like that. There you go. Now you go, well, what's the difference? It looks basically the same, except for now we actually see the boat from both sides. And if you open it up, it'll actually stand up like that. So super easy 2-fold origami boat. Obviously you can decorate it however you'd like, but you got the basic sail shape and the basic boat shape. And it'll actually open up into 3D. So there you have it, right? Cool. And again, that one will stand up on its own. There we go, right? All right, so that's really, really simple one. I'm going to show you how to do a little bit more of a complicated one. But hey, if you can handle that, there you go. So next I'm going to show you how to make an origami canoe. But first, there's actually a fold in this process we're going to use that you've probably used before if you've made a certain type of paper airplane. So really quickly, let me show you what I'm talking about. So I think we've all made that kind of traditional style of paper airplane. If you watched my last video, you might have made a more advanced one. But the regular style of paper airplane, we'd fold the paper in half. We'd fold this. And look right here, we have a right triangle. Hey, now we know the word for that. We'd fold that to the middle. Okay. So most of us have made paper airplanes like this. This is kind of the most traditional style of paper airplane you can make. Right, like that. So most of us have done that style of paper airplane. Kind of the level 2 style of paper airplane is the one that has the style of fold that we're going to use for our origami canoe. So you probably have made these. So I'm going to start the same with my right angles at the top. So 1, 2. Okay. And this is the fold I'm about to show you. We're going to use this next fold a whole lot in the canoe. So what I'm going to do next is take this to here. Like that. And this down to the middle. Now when you do this, the problem is this other part can slide out. We don't want it to slide out. We want it to stay put. Maybe we can see it better that way. So I'm going to turn this up to here. So anyway, this is the other style of paper airplane that's probably the second most common one, where you do that fold. We're going to do that fold a whole lot on our origami canoe. So there we go. And then just to finish this airplane, maybe we do something like that. Maybe something like that. So this is another really, really common one. Gives you something that looks like that. So anyway, yeah, that style of fold. It's stuck in the shelf over there. That style of fold we're going to use a lot for this origami canoe. So let's make it happen. One of the things I like about this one is you don't actually need to do this on a square of paper. It's perfectly fine to use a rectangle. So I'm just going to start with my paper like this. And here we go. All right. Lots of huge trucks going by right now. Anyway, first things first, let's fold the paper in half. And I'm going to do this one lengthwise. So that means folding it in half the long way. Sometimes you'll hear this called hot dog style because it looks like a hot dog bun instead of a hamburger bun. Right, fold, crease. So I folded it, creased it. Good to go. All right, now what I'm going to do is fold the top down so it lines up perfectly with the middle. There we go. Okay. And I'll fold the bottom up so it lines up perfectly with that middle crease. There we go. And so we've split our paper into fourths. So just like that. Now just to make this a little easier to see, I'm going to go ahead and switch to a piece of paper that I've marked those fourths. So same folds, I just drew a line on them so you can see them a little better. All right, so let's go ahead and start actually working on this origami canoe. Step 1, we're going to take the bottom right here and fold it up to that first crease we have right here. All right, so get that lined up just about perfect. That looks good. Down and across, always starting in the middle, increasing to the outside, and we'll score it. Okay. So next we're going to start doing those kind of level 2 paper airplane folds that I showed you. So I'm going to start right here. We'll fold this. I'm actually going to turn this so it looks like a paper airplane so you can understand it more. I'm going to fold this down there. And crease. So we have that right triangle right now. And then I'm going to do that same fold I did on my paper airplane, where I'm going to bring this corner down to touch that line too. And again, what I want to make sure is that this part isn't slipping out. Because if I fold it like that, and this piece of paper, oh, you can't see. If you fold it like that and that extra piece of paper is sticking out, it's not going to work. So you got to make sure you kind of keep that first corner where it should be while you're folding the second corner. Perfect. Got that lined up straight. Crease, crease, crease. Score. All right. There you have it. Yeah, the shadows work better. I'll fold it this way. So repeating. What did I do? Step 1. Folded that corner down to there. Step 2. Folded this corner down to here. Just like that paper airplane I just showed you. Cool. I'm going to do the same thing right here. So that's going to fold up to the line. Crease. Then I'm going to do that same paper airplane fold right here. Crease. And let's go ahead and score that. Perfect. All right, for the canoe, both sides of the canoe are going to end up kind of pointy because that's what a canoe looks like. So I'm just going to do the exact same folds on this side. So this one's going to come down to there. I've got that first one. This one's going to come down to here. Okay. And again, same exact thing down here. So first is my right triangle, and then I'll do that same paper airplane fold. All right, and we will crease and score. Okay. So there we go. What we have currently looks just like that. There's this tiny little flat part in the middle, so my next fold is I'm going to fold this flat part down to that crease. This flat part comes down, lines up perfectly with that crease. I'll fold that down, crease it, score it. We have something that looks like that. So again, to review, that fold down to here. Perfect. All right, last step for this part is I'm going to take this whole piece right here, this flat, and just fold it down to here. So it might get a little bunchy in the corners, so watch those corners. Try to get them as flat as you can. There you go. And what we're left with, once we score it down, looks like 2 big long rectangles and a trapezoid. Trapezoid is a 4-sided shape that has, well, basically it's like a triangle with part of it cut off. So if I could imagine these lines going on forever, it would make a triangle. But we cut that part of the triangle off. This makes a trapezoid. So there we go. Cool. All right. So this next couple of steps seems to be the most confusing part of this. So I'll try to go kind of slow for this and just watch closely, and we'll see if we can do it. So right now we've got our little trapezoid that we just folded down. We've got these 2 triangles here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to flip this whole thing over. We're going to take this trapezoid shape and fold it up. So all I did was kind of flip that fold around. Okay, good. Now I'm going to do the same thing kind of again. I'm going to flip this entire thing over. And I'm going to fold this bottom up to here. Then we'll see our trapezoid again. So the bottom folds up to that next fold, and again we see our little trapezoid again. That's just what we want. There we go. Perfect. And now I'm gonna flip the entire thing upside down so that the trapezoid is at the top, but it's behind. So my trapezoid's behind this long rectangle right there. Okay, now again, I know that's a lot of flipping and turning and stuff. If you need to go back and rewind, make sure you're in the right place, that's fine. But we've got our trapezoid right here, and it's now under this long rectangle, just like that. Okay, cool. Ready for the next step. Now the next step is going to be really familiar because it's exactly kind of like that other step we just did where we did the paper airplane folds. Cool. So what am I going to do? A couple of things. Number one, I'm going to fold all of my corners down like right angles. And then I'm just going to fold all of those corners like the paper airplane fold we talked about earlier. Now, of course, since this is a thin rectangle, they'll have smaller triangles. Since this is a thick one, they'll have bigger. But as you can see, this is really just the exact same thing we did earlier. So I'm doing that paper airplane fold where I start with a right triangle, and then I'll go back and actually do that secondary fold where the corners come down. Same exact thing I did earlier. I'm going to do this to all 4 corners. 1, 2, 3. I'm moving it around so much, but I gotta get a good angle on it here. 3 and 4. Good. We get something that looks like that, and I'll go ahead and score all of these. It's starting to get kind of bunchy. This is where having origami paper might help. Okay. And now, before I do anything else, again, I have this little flat piece right here. I'm going to fold the flat piece up to this line, just like that. Get it lined up. Crease, crease. Looking good. And then I'm going to fold this entire bottom flap all together up. And there's our trapezoid shape again. And I'll just crease this whole thing down. At this point, the entire paper is folded into that little trapezoid. And now we can kind of see what the canoe is going to look like from the side, right? Like a canoe. So, we're ready. The only thing we got to figure out is how to open it. If we look at the short side of our trapezoid, we're going to see 4 possible places. 1, 2, 3, 4. If we look at the long side of our trapezoid, you're going to see really there's only 3. There's the left side, a right side, and the middle. So when we open it, we're going to open it from this long side, the top side. So I'm going to hold the left side, I'm going to hold the right side, and I'm actually just going to pull the middle open, pull it apart. And it should pop right out into your 3D canoe. There you go. We've done it. And now obviously paper is going to absorb water. So if you put this in water, after a while, it's going to get really wet and kind of just deteriorate. But if you put that in water, it should actually float for a while. So there's the bottom of it. Here, let's switch views. The bottom's flat, each end. There you go. Canoe shape. Cool. Origami canoe. So we got our super simple origami sailboat right here. We got our super simple origami canoe. So what I'm about to show you is one that's very, very similar to the canoe, but it's going to have more of like a speedboat shape where it's pointed on one end and kind of flat on the other. And if you were able to do the canoe, this next one will be really easy for you because it's almost the exact same thing. Last boat I'm going to show you how to make. Again, it's very similar to the last one. Now, with our canoes are really long and thin. I want this next one I'm going to make to be a little bit wider. So I'm just going to turn my paper a different way. But like I'm telling you, a whole lot of these folds are like very similar. This is going to be, if you did the last one, this one will be pretty easy. So I'm going to start by folding my paper in half, only this time I'm going to fold it in half, like hamburger style. Like that, kind of the way you'd fold a card. Okay. So there's my first fold, just like I did on the last one. I'm going to fold my bottom up to the middle, increase. Perfect, just like I did on the last one. I'm going to fold my top down to the middle, increase. Again, you got to be really precise with folds when you're doing origami. Cool. And I'm going to switch, just like I did last time, to one where I've actually drawn the lines. So same folds, just so you can see these lines a little bit better. All right, so when I start this, again, it's going to be very, very similar to the one we just made. So let's fold the bottom up to the first line. So the bottom is going to come right up to there. Let's actually get that lined up. Not quite, not quite, not quite. There we go. All right, increase. And just like last time, that leaves a thick rectangle and a thinner one. And just like last time, we're going to do some similar folds. But first, I'm going to start over here on this thin rectangle. This is going to be the back of my boat. I'm going to fold a right angle, or a right triangle, I should say. And you go, this is feeling really familiar, but this is going to be the one part of this that actually changes, because this is going to be the back of our boat. So what I'm going to do here, before I do anything else, with this right triangle, I'm going to flip the whole thing over to the back. You can imagine my right triangle's on the other side of this. And I'm going to fold this down until I see that little right triangle right there. And then I'm going to make sure all the rest of my folds are lined up straight. So that's not going to work because that's not straight. And I'll give this whole thing a crease. Cool. Now, that folds for later. We just needed to do it now. So I'm going to open that back up. And then just flip it back over. There's my little right triangle. Let's turn it back the way we had it. There we go. Okay. And we're going to get back to those airplane folds. Same exact thing we did before. This should be really familiar to you by now if you've been following along. So first fold it like a right triangle. Then fold it with that airplane fold. Okay. Same thing down here on the bottom. Right triangle. And airplane fold. And I think I kind of blocked the view, so if you missed it, start like this. Right triangle fold. Perfect. Airplane fold. Again, same thing we've been doing, right? Cool, cool, cool. All right. And similar, but not exactly the same, similar to what we did last time, we're going to take this flat part right here and fold that down so it lines up with this line. My flat part is coming down to here. You can see that's about how I want it right there. So crease. And crease all the way across. And score. I'm going to trace this line just so you can see it better. So there's that fold right here. Okay. So with this little guy right here, this little square, I'm just going to fold this into another little right angle. Right triangle, I should say. There we go. Looks like that. So that step again was just this little guy, that little square. It's folded in half like that. Okay, I'm going to take this whole thing down like that. Crease the entire thing, or score the entire thing, I should say. And again, we have a little trapezoid at the bottom. It's a different shape of trapezoid, but it's still a trapezoid because it still has 4 sides. And it still is kind of shaped like that triangle with part of it cut off. Okay. There we go. So again, this next part is the part that's a little complicated as far as flipping and turning and flipping and turning. So I'll try to go kind of slow. So we have it right there. What I'm going to do is flip the entire thing over to the back. I'm going to take my trapezoid and flip it up like that and crease. I'm going to go ahead and score that. Cool. I'm going to flip the entire thing over again like this. Trapezoid's still on the bottom. We're going to flip. You can actually see it right through the paper, can't you? Even though it's on the other side. We're going to flip that up to this fold right here. It'll line up. Really make sure you line this one up straight. Okay. I'll crease. And again, you can see there's a little fold right here. I'll just highlight it so you can see it. Score. 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 Cool. And then I'm going to flip the whole thing over again so that the trapezoid ends up at the top behind that piece. So my trapezoid's right there. Okay. And if you did all that right, you should see this little extra fold. Okay. So last step, well, close to the last step. We're going to do some of those airplane folds again. So start with our right triangle, crease. Then I'll bring this point up to that line too and crease. Gives us something that looks like that. And we should be pretty used to that fold by now. We can do that same exact fold here. Starting with my right triangle. And crease. And then my airplane fold from here down. Crease. Very good. Okay. I'm going to fold this flat part right here up to here. Making sure that those folds line up. That looks about right there. All the way across. We'll crease and score that. And then the last part is these 2 little squares. I'll fold like right triangles. So the bottom one comes up to the line. Bottom corner up to the line. This top one is going to come down to the line. So this corner will come down like that. Okay. So bottom came up, top came down. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to take this bottom part and flip this whole thing over to here. Score this whole thing on both sides. And then opening it is going to be very similar to how we did last time. So our trapezoid right now has a short side here. And again, that has 4 possible little flaps. The long side of the trapezoid has 3 possible little flaps. And that's the side we're going to open, this long side. So find the longest side. We're going to open it up. You're going to pull the left and the right. The middle is just going to open itself. So we pull out, pull. Flatten out the bottom. And then the back on this one is going to open up flat. So you might have to go back and kind of pinch those corners the way you want them. And my piece is sticking out a little bit too much there. But generally that'll be the shape of it. The back will be flat, the front will be pointy. There you go. Let's see, did I have another one that worked better? Well, here's one I made, it's long, but so the back ends up looking a little bit like that. This one I didn't fold quite precisely, I think. Oh, there it is. Something like that. Yep. Cool. So that's kind of a more traditional boat shape. This is like the shape of the boat, you know, I used to go out with my dad on the river in. So we got kind of your regular boat shape. We got your canoe boat shape. We got your super simple sailboat that anybody can make. So, hey, there you have it. A bunch of different origami boats. Cool. So, there's our regular boat shape. Our canoe. Our easiest origami ever sailboat. And yeah, we'll make some more next time. So give those a shot, see what you can do. Obviously the fun part for me is oftentimes after the folding's done, decorating them and stuff like that, because that's a little boring in my opinion. But hey, if you have different colored paper, if you got crayons, spruce it up a little bit, right? Cool. Anyway, have fun. See you next time. All right, I think our fleet needs some passengers here. So let's put in the canoe, we'll put the bunny and Papa Smurf. Will he ride in the canoe? There he goes. Perfect. And in the other boat over here, we'll put Shovel Knight and Mario. There we go. They're ready to roll. Awesome. Now, of course, we got to see if they actually float, too. So, let's try this guy out. No problem. Easy. Now, here's the real test. Can Papa Smurf float in them without them sinking? Papa Smurf's doing all right. What about Mario? Mario's doing great. You can hear my wife singing to her kids on Zoom in the background. And do I trust these to put Shovel Knight in? He's an amiibo. I don't want to break him. Let's see. Ah, whoa. Awesome. Yeah, look at that. So, yeah, no problem floating. Now, if I left him here for an hour, I'm sure they... Oh, no! Shovel Knight! No! He was just too heavy. That was the problem. His boat capsized. What a tragedy. Oh, no. Yep. That one's about toast. The others are doing good, though. Like I said, obviously you can't leave them sitting there floating forever because they are... paper. They're going to absorb water and fall apart. You all right, Shovel Knight? He's strong. He can take it. All right. Anyway, cool. See y'all later.